friends, welcome back to the Eerie Fairy Tales. My name is Letty, and today I am so excited to tell you all about the books that I read in July. I participated in a few readathons, which I think really helped my reading. I read 13 books. I did have one DNF, but the 13 that I read were all at least 3 stars and above. I have quite a few 4.5 stars and a few 5 stars as well. I read a total of 4,126 pages, so I almost doubled, I think, what I read last month, so that's really good. Different genres I read were horror, thriller, fantasy, and then a little mystery. And I read 10 novels, 2 novellas, and a graphic novel. I'll be doing the ranking from rants to raves. And I will quickly mention the 3 readathons that I participated in. The first one was Mermaid Marathon, hosted by the Brightside Girl, and I will link her channel below so you can check it out next year if you'd like to participate. And then some of you may be also familiar with Summerween, hosted by Gabby Reads and Olivia Reads a Latte, and I will link both of their channels below as well. And then the third readathon I participated in July was called Xmas Evil in July, and that was hosted by Kelly Hooked on Books, and I will link her channel below as well. Okay, so let's just get right into it. Since I have so many books to talk about, let's start off with my DNF. My very disappointing DNF. I really tried. I read actually, I think 60-75% of it, and I just couldn't do it anymore. This was adapted to film, and that's why I wanted to read it. I really wanted those nostalgic 90s witchy vibes, and well, that's just not what happened for me at least. Now, most people love this book. I'm definitely in the minority on this, and that is Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman. Now, in this book, we supposedly watch the Owens women confront challenges in life and love. And the Owens women consist of 2 aunts and 2 nieces. And the sisters are gossiped about in town and taunted because they're blamed for everything bad that happens in town. And yet the aunts seem to encourage this witchy kind of talk, these witchy accusations. But all the nieces want to do is escape. One of them escapes by getting married and the other escapes by running away. Then the bonds of magic bring them back together. Okay, so that's the premise, and I must not be remembering the movie correctly. It has been a long time, so maybe that's it. I was actually planning on watching the movie after I read this, but I didn't finish it. Maybe I'll watch it anyway. I think I just might, just to see if I was misremembering the movie, because when I read this, it did not remind me at all of that, so maybe it's actually really different from the movie. But in this book, it seems like there's really not that much going on. Barely strange things that kind of almost happen, not really explained. There's no real overt magic kind of going on. But then in between all this nothing going on is random F-bombs and then awkward sexual content. I don't have a problem with that kind of language. It just seemed out of place, almost forced. Like it was jarring. Nothing would be happening and all of a sudden they'd be talking about, describing some man's body part. Like, what? Why are you doing that? Where is that coming from? It's so odd to me. This was a total dud for me. It was very sad. And plus, look at the cover. That's so beautiful. I'm seriously considering keeping it just because of the beautiful cover. And it's disappointing too. It's a nice short book. I read 182 pages out of 286, so I did a decent amount. I was just like, why am I doing this to myself? There are so many other books that I really want to read. And yes, this was for a readathon, but I think I just swapped it out for another book. Sad to say, I did not enjoy this one. However, a lot of people really love this book, so I don't know, like, am I reading the same book? I don't know. So really sad to say that I just could not finish this book. So now we'll get into my ratings, and these are 3-star books. The first 3-star book I'm going to talk about is actually a graphic novel. It's called A Study in Emeralds, and it's written by Neil Gaiman with the artist Rafael Albuquerque. And this is a supernatural mystery set in the world of Sherlock Holmes with some Lovecraftian Cthulhu mythos. It features a brilliant detective and his partner as they try to solve a horrific murder. Now, I do love that aspect. Sherlock Holmes, the Cthulhu, I love that kind of cosmic horror, and the art is really cool. I'll show you a little bit of it. It even starts out with like a little intro to the book to show you the first page here. You can see it's like that old-timey, like an old-timey style. I'll show you the first one of the beast. So I did love the artwork and it was a fun story. However, it did feel like something was missing from it. It almost seems like it's just a part of a series. I can't really explain it, but it felt like there was supposed to be more to it for some reason. Overall, it was beautiful artwork and a fun story to read. I forgot to mention this is 70 pages. My next two 3-star books are both novellas. And the first one is a horror novella, which some of you may be familiar with, and that is Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones. In this, we have a group of friends who like to play pranks. And this summer is about to wind down, and so they want to pull one last prank. And so they set up a mannequin inside a theater. And everything's all fun and game until it wakes up and starts killing people. One friend takes it upon himself to become the hero and save everyone. And he'll kill as many people as he needs to. Don't think about it too long. Now, this generally was a fun story, and I really loved the concept of a mannequin coming to life. However, there's really something else going on here, and I just didn't really like the other thing that was really going on. However, many people do love this novella, and it's possible that as I think about it more, my rating could go up, and I may even rate it higher if I end up rereading it, and I may because it's so short. So if this premise sounds intriguing to you, I would recommend it. And I'm actually interested in checking out some more of his work. If you've read any of his books and have any suggestions, I would love to hear them. The next horror novella is Goddess of Filth by B. Castro. And this is another little shorty at 141 pages. Also, can we just appreciate the spine on the spine? I love that. So this story is basically The Craft, but make it Mexicana. There's a group of girlfriends that hold a seance, but then things actually really start happening. So that night, and then over the next few weeks, one of the friends starts acting very strangely, and things get pretty weird. And there's also a thing with this one priest. Makes you a little uncomfortable, but I did enjoy what the book was saying. Now, I haven't seen that many reviews on this book, but the reviews I have seen, they've all really loved the book. So if you're interested in the premise and it sounds good to you, I would recommend it. Okay, and next I have one 3.5-star book. Oh, and I forgot to mention that most of these books I read for Readathons. Yeah, I will do the timestamps of the books that I talk about. And then when I link the channels for the Readathons, I'll list out the books that I read for those specific Readathons. So maybe you can get an idea of the kind of books that you would read for that kind of readathon. Oh, my kitty Penny wants to say hi. You want to come up here? Want to come up here for me? Right here? Here she is. Penny going to say hi. Penny going to say hi. No. She's down too little. Princess Penny Dreadful, she's down here on my lap. Okay. And little Fritz Wiki, he's in the bathroom because he likes to lay in the sink. Okay, Penny. There we go. Get settled. My 3.5-star book is Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. In this book, we have one island, a desolate location in the Pacific Ocean, with a mysterious history of shipwrecks, cannibalism, and possibly murder. A destination spot for adventure seekers and travelers. And then 6 people in their 20s embark on this blissful journey, just to realize that when they get there, that they are more cut off than the world than they thought they would be. And then, one person goes missing, and one person ends up dead. So the remaining friends are left to wonder, what is really going on? Now, overall, this was a fun one. It was a very quick read with very short chapters, which I always appreciate. And there was always this undercurrent of uneasiness. Like, everything seems nice at first, but then things would get a little weird and creepy. Although I wish it would have gone a little bit more into the creepiness. It would have been cool to see it amped up a little. But like I said, still a fun read, and I think this would make a perfect beach read. Okay, and on to my 4-star book. Now this book is a special book because it's extra beautiful. And that is the novelization of the Disney movie Hocus Pocus. I just need to show you some of this. So it's a really nice texture, and it has some of the raised lettering here, the beautiful artwork, and it continues on the back. And then the actual naked hardcover. I mean, look at that. That is just so cool. I wasn't expecting that. I don't know why. I must have not looked. You know how sometimes people include photos with their reviews? I didn't see any. I didn't look down there, so I didn't know. And then on the back, we got the witches there, the Sanderson sisters. When you first open it, you get the map. Then every chapter, the beginning of every chapter starts like that, with a letter with the artwork in it. I wonder if there's a specific name for something like that. And the artwork is really beautiful. They have different size illustrations. They have some that take up just a little bit of the page. And then they have some that take up both pages. I'm sure everyone's very familiar with this movie, so I don't think I'm going to be spoiling anything. At least I hope not. This is at that dance. This is the Halloween ball. So in this book, we follow Max, who is a teenager who has just moved from California to Salem, Mass. He doesn't understand the town's fascination with everything Halloween. And then one night, he has an opportunity to impress this one classmate who he may have a crush on. And by taking her to an old house that is rumored to have been the house of these witchy sisters. He doesn't believe in all this stuff, so he's not scared. However, there at the house, he inadvertently lights a certain candle. And that candle brings the sisters back from the afterlife. So it's up to Max, his little sister, his classmate, and a talking black cat to stop the witchy sisters from getting their spell book. This book is absolutely gorgeous, as I've shown you, so it was really fun to have that mixed with the nostalgia of watching the movie, and this did meet that nostalgia expectation, unlike Practical Magic. Unfortunately, I haven't seen the movie in a long time, and I would love to see it again, actually. I think I will do that this fall. And next up, I have 5 books, which I gave 4.5 stars. The first 4.5 star book I'm going to talk about is House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig. Just look at this beautiful cover. The second book just came out, and that one is called House of Roots and Ruin. And I wish I would have known that was going to come out, because I would have got this in hardcover to match that. And I really want to read that second one soon, so I think I'm going to sell this and then get both in hardcovers. I know I'm weird like that. I just need him to match, okay? So House of Salt and Sorrows is a retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses. In this book, we have a manor by the sea and 12 sisters who are cursed, and 4 of them who have already died. But Annnndd, the main character, becomes suspicious of these supposed accidents, and to cope with their stress, they've been sneaking out at night to go dancing. They attend glittering balls, dance in silk gowns and sequin slippers, and they dance so much that they have to continually replace their shoes. Now, Annnndd struggles with trying to make them stop and joining them. And she does join them, and she ends up meeting a mysterious stranger with secrets of their own. And it's a race to unravel the darkness that has overcome her family before it claims her next. I will mention some blurbs because it does describe it perfectly. Haunting, atmospheric, immersive, eerie, lovely, full of ghosts, a fascinating waterfront world. And yes, I 100% agree. I love this book. It felt like I was there. I could move around the manor. I could hear the music. I could smell the salt in the air. Not really, but you know what I mean. There's even an interesting way in how the girls get to these balls to go dancing, and it's one of my favorite tropes. But then you find out what's really going on, and oh wow, it is so good. Now, I would say this is a little bit dark, as are a lot of fairy tale type stories, but it's not graphic in any way. It just deals with some darker themes. And a lot of people also love this book, and I highly recommend it. Oh, I forgot to mention the page count for those last books. For Reckless Girls, it was 309 pages. For Hocus Pocus, it was 231 pages. And House of Salt and Sorrows was 400. And my next 4.5-star book was Monsters Born and Made by Tanvi Berwah. And this is a YA fantasy, and it is 335 pages. And this is also a beautiful edition. This was a limited run of their first edition hardcover, and it has a little bit of a raised, that's a Maristag, that's the name of the creature. And then this is the naked hardcover. And it says, "This is the ocean, and you're a hunter. You swim with monsters. These people cannot scare you." And then on the back, we have the beautiful waves. And then on the inside, it has this really pretty, I don't know if the color will show up too much on camera, but it's like a dark teal color. It's really pretty. In this book, we follow 16-year-old Coral and her brother Emmerich as they risk their lives capturing monstrous amphibious sea creatures called Maristags in the sea around their island. And they have to, or their family will starve. In this world, we have classes or positions, and that is what they have to do in order to survive. They have to provide these Maristags for something called the Glory Race. And it is a deadly chariot tournament that's reserved only for the upper class. The winners get gold and glory, and the losers, if they're lucky, survive. Coral fails to capture a Maristag one year, so her only way to get the money is to cheat her way into the race to be able to participate. She's going up against contenders who have trained their whole lives and are not going to be too happy about giving up the gold and glory to some low-caste girl. Then riots break out, and she has to do more than just win the race. And this is an epic South Asian-inspired fantasy debut. I had so much fun reading this. It was engaging, emotional. I felt for her and rooted for her. She basically carried the weight of her family on her shoulders, which actually made me kind of pissed off at her dad. Was why is she having to do that when he is fully capable? And it did give me a little bit of Hunger Game vibe, and I would definitely recommend it. Also, I just found out on her Instagram that she is going to be releasing another book in January of 2024, and it's called Somewhere in the Deep. So I can't wait to get it. I definitely put it on my TBR right away. Did I say how many pages that was? That was 335. And my next 4.5-star book was FantasticLand by Mike Bockoven. And I love any kind of thriller or horror story set at a theme park, amusement park, carnival, circus, water park, all that. I love those stories. Now in this book, we have FantasticLand, which is a theme park that has been around since the 70s. And then this year, the theme park is ravaged by a hurricane and they're in Florida. So basically they get isolated and they can't be rescued for another 5 weeks. And then photos emerge showing very disturbing things. And so they interview the survivors. And that is what this book is. It's their interviews. So it's like an epistolary novel. Oh, by the way, 260 pages. So basically, through this series of interviews, you discover that when these people are cut off from the world and then left on their own, especially the teenagers, they form rival tribes who viciously competed for supplies, dominance, and even human flesh. It's like a modern take on Lord of the Flies and Battle Royale. Now, I actually did just read Lord of the Flies, but I haven't read Battle Royale yet, though that is on my TBR. This basically probes the consequence of a social civilization built online because they no longer have that access and they no longer have that identity or that network to like distract them from reality. This was really good. It actually scared me. I was like anxious the whole time I was reading it, so it was really good. In my opinion, that means it's really good if it actually makes me feel anxious like that. Oh, I think I even had a dream about this. Oh, then it would probably be a nightmare because I would not do well in a situation like that. Absolutely not. Now, at first, I wasn't sure about the whole interview style. I wasn't sure if that was going to work for me, but it was done pretty well. Although I will say, it seemed like to me in the end, we kind of hit a peak and then there was more after it. I guess it was like a way to wrap it all up, but I mean, I don't know how I would change it. But overall, I really enjoyed it and I would highly recommend it. And my next 4.5-star book is The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. And this is a thriller, and it is 370 pages. Now, in this book, we have a young woman who returns to her summer camp to uncover the truth about a tragedy that happened there 15 years ago. The group of girls in this one cabin would play truths and a lie.
Two truths and a lie. Two truths. Truth and a lie.
Until one night, one of them goes missing. And then you flash forward to the current day, and Emma, the main character, is an artist. And so she gets invited to go back to the summer camp to be an art instructor. And this is actually the first time that they've opened the camp since that tragedy occurred. Since she's there, she takes it upon herself to do some investigating. Now, everything looks the same, pretty much. However, there is a security camera that's facing her cabin now. And the more Emma digs into the past, the more she realizes there could be dangers in her present. And let me tell you, yes, things get very dangerous. It was actually a little scary, especially towards the end. And it had so many good twists. Of course, you know, Riley Sager likes to do his twists. Now, I love this book. I just had to keep reading it to find out what was going to happen and what was really going on. And the past mystery and the present situation were weaved together really well. This is the perfect read for the summertime. My last 4.5-star book is By the Light of Dead Stars by Andrew Van Wey. And this is a horror, and it is 411 pages. And again, just like Head Like a Hole, the beautiful octopus. I love this cover. They're going to look so good together too, because these are going to be facing out. Even though they're paperback, these got to be facing out. There's no way these covers are going to hide, okay? No. So Head Like a Hole, that is what I read in June, and if you missed it, I'll link my June wrap-up in the pinned comment below. That one I gave a 5-star, all-time favorite, and this one was really good. I loved it. Now I'm on a mission to read all of his books. I'm actually still reading his short story collection, Grim Horizons, and it's really good. But anyways, let me tell you about this book. Okay, I had to fix my phone. I think it's okay now. Okay, so I'll just read the back because it just describes it perfectly. On the Lost Coast, some things should never be found. When tragedy shatters 13-year-old Zelda Ruiz's adolescence, she retreats with her Uncle Mark to the bucolic town of Greywood Bay. It's a chance to heal, a chance to build a new life together. But nothing can prepare them for the malignant terror long coveting these lands. It looms over redwood groves and lurks among the foundations of homes. It festers in the dark hearts of the wounded, and now this cosmic horror has found a new weapon, a means to worm its way into our world. To save their community and each other, Zelda and Mark will need to confront their darkest demons both inside and out, for what stalks Greywood Bay hungers for suffering above all else, and soon it will feast by the light of dead stars. Now, I love this book, and once again, he does not waste any time getting to the horror, talking the first page. Now, even though something pretty traumatic happens on the first page, and you don't have any of that previous preamble, the long introduction to the characters that takes chapters. However, I still cared about them. Uncle Mark, wow, he has to be one of my favorite characters. Everybody needs an Uncle Mark, seriously. Now, I know he had his own issues and struggles or whatever. He was really a good dude. He cared for and loved his niece, and it was pretty obvious. Always there right by her. Like during a custody battle, her grandparents on her dad's side were fighting for custody. Uncle Mark, uh, he was the brother to her mom. So her dad's side of the family is trying to take custody of her, but get the impression that they're not the greatest people. Wouldn't be a good thing if she stayed with them. So during a custody battle, the attorneys were asking what he wanted to do. And he says, well, what does Zelda want to do? And the attorneys were kind of like, doesn't matter. She's a kid. And it seemed like he was the only one that ever really cared about what she wanted. He was the only one who was really an advocate for her. I mean, he even moved countries to take care of her. It's like he thought he wasn't good enough, but he was actually exactly what she needed. Aside from these endearing characters, we also have this ominous horror going on and like trippy things, like really fun. This does include a little bit of body horror, a little gore. Oh, and also I love how he basically gave a shout out to little free libraries. This must be the only book where I've ever seen little free libraries mentioned. Maybe one other book. I don't even remember which book it would be, but I think that's awesome. Also, something else that I really liked about this is that they're really short chapters, just like Head Like a Hole. Also, each part page, like part 1, part 2, part 3, had a quote on it. And it's a quote from the diary of Arthur Cummings. Now, I had to look that up, and it is a real thing. It's somebody who wrote a last diary. I'd have to dig into it a little bit more. But yeah, really good book. There was a creepy house and location, but it turns out not to be what you think it was. I would highly, highly recommend this. Now, this book, at least right now when I'm recording this September 17th, this book and Head Like a Hole, you now, of course, double check this, but I saw a post, I don't remember the date, but these were at the bookstore, Head Like a Hole and By the Light of Dead Stars, and you could buy them there, and they included a signed book plate, a bookmark, and some stickers. So if you're interested in either of these books, you may want to run to the bookstore and get them there. Now, we are here. We have arrived at my 5-star books. The first 5-star book is Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. And this is a horror. And it's 384 pages. I actually read the paperback copy because I didn't know if I was going to get my Book of the Month edition in time, and I wanted to read this for a readathon. But it turns out that I'm going to be doing a book swap with one of my younger sisters. She just read, The House Next Door by Amy something, I think. Oh, I wish I could remember the author. Just going to give her this since I have the hardcover copy, so hopefully she likes it too. But I am glad to have this hardcover in my collection because I'd like to go ahead and just collect all the Riley Sager and the Book of the Month editions. Also, I like this cover better with the chandelier. So in this book, we have bells that ring themselves, record players that turn on in empty rooms, and ghosts that climb out of wardrobes. Now, Maggie doesn't believe in these things, even though that's the very details of the story that made her family famous. And 25 years ago, her parents moved them into a rambling Victorian estate in Vermont. But they only lived there for 20 days before fleeing in the middle of the night, an ordeal later recounted by her father in his book, House of Horrors. Now, after his death, she's inherited the estate, and she's gone there to do some renovations. While she's staying there, very weird things start to happen. And she starts to wonder if the things her father wrote in the book are actually true. We alternate chapters between the father's book, House of Horrors, and this book, the current timeline. Each one is building on the next. Both stories were good on their own, but when combined, they were amazing. It really helped build the tension, unease, and confusion. I love haunted house stories. That's one of my favorite tropes, and this did not disappoint. I highly recommend this. My next two books, both 5 stars, are actually all-time favorites. And my first 5-star all-time favorite is episode 13 by Craig DiLouie, and that's 433 pages. Also, this book just feels good. You know how some books just have a good feeling when you hold them, and that's what this has. Anyway, back to the story itself. So this is an epistolary novel, like articles, journal entries, emails, things like that. It's found footage. It's described as House of Leaves meets The Haunting of Hill House. Now, I haven't read House of Leaves yet, but I would love to. And I did just read The Haunting of Hill House last month, August. I'm recording this in September. This is unsettling, suspenseful, engaging, bizarre, unexpected, and weird, but still fun. It's part ghost story and part metaphysical horror. And I'll just read the synopsis on the back because it's short and it sums it up really well. Fade to Black is the newest hit ghost hunting reality TV show. Led by husband and wife team Matt and Claire Kirkland, it features a dedicated crew of ghost hunting experts. Episode 13 takes them to every ghost hunter's holy grail, the Paranormal Research Foundation. This crumbling, derelict mansion holds secrets and clues about bizarre experiments that took place there in the 1970s. It's also undoubtedly haunted, and Matt hopes to use scientific techniques and high-tech gear to prove it. But as the house begins to slowly reveal itself to the crew, proof of an afterlife might not be everything Matt dreamed of. Now, I love this book so much. This book also references the Greek myth of Sisyphus, which, if you didn't see my June wrap-up, I mentioned that Greek myth was also referenced in Ascension by Nicholas Binge. Now, I personally love the ending. I've heard that quite a few people don't like the ending, but I really like that he did something unexpected. And in my opinion, he followed the myth of Sisyphus. And unfortunately, I can't really dive into that specifically without spoilers. I will say it did include one of my favorite tropes that was also in Ascension, and House of Salt and Sorrows. Now, if you love haunted house stories or found footage stories, I highly, highly recommend it. Oh, and after, if you're so inclined, you may want to dig a little bit deeper into the Greek myth of Sisyphus. That's what I'm going to be doing anyway. I'm going to be getting a book about the Greek myth of Sisyphus written by Albert Camus. He's the one who wrote The Stranger. Anyway, back to the book, 5-star all-time favorite. So my number 1 book for July. This needs to be a movie. It needs to be a 3D movie, okay? Because it would be absolutely terrifying and I would be the first one in line, okay? And this book is one of my favorite subgenres, favorite tropes, and that's ocean horror. And that book is From Below by Darcy Coates, and 469 pages. Although I pretty much ripped right through this, I read this very quickly. And for this, I'll just go ahead and read the synopsis on the back as well, since it sums it up so well. Years ago, no light, no air, no escape. Hundreds of feet beneath the ocean surface, a graveyard waits. Years ago, during a routine voyage, the SS Arcadia vanished without a trace. Though a strange, garbled emergency message was broadcast, neither the ship nor any of its crew could be found. 60 years later, its wreck has finally been discovered more than 300 miles from its intended course, a silent graveyard deep beneath the ocean's surface, eagerly waiting for the first sign of life. Cove and her dive team have been granted permission to explore the Arcadia's rusting hull. Their purpose is straightforward: examine the wreck, film everything, and if possible, uncover how and why the supposedly unsinkable ship vanished. But the Arcadia has not yet had its fill of death, and something dark and hungry watches from below. With limited oxygen and the ship slowly closing in around them, Cove and her team will have to fight their way free of the unspeakable horror, now desperate to claim them. Because once they're trapped beneath the ocean's waves, there's no going back. Oh, on the back there it has The Haunting of Lee Harker. That was on my TBR too. So basically, this is like a haunted house story, but on a sunken ship. So that's perfect. It blends two of my favorite things together. I love this book so much. I could picture it so well. That's why I would love to see a movie of it. I got everything I wanted from this book that I wanted from Into the Drowning Deep. That and more. Into the Drowning Deep I read in June, so I'll have my June wrap up linked in the pinned comment. I also read this really fast. It was like I just really needed to find out what was going to happen, but I also didn't want it to end because I just liked reading it so much. The characters were distinct and the plot moved so well. And this, you have a dual timeline. One timeline, you're on the ship before it's sunk and leading up to that point, and then that starts building and building as they are investigating the ship, and then the stories intertwine as you learn more, and it gets really, really creepy. Definitely going to be checking out more of her work, like I said, The Haunting of Lee Harker. Also, I had on my list The Haunting of Ashburn House, and what was the other one? Oh, Gallows Hill. So if you have any other favorites of hers, please let me know. I definitely want to read more of her work. That will do it for my July wrap up. I was so glad to have a good reading month. Lots of books, lots of good books as well. Some all-time favorites. I'm also glad to be catching up on these videos. I may have a fall and spooky book video up before my August wrap up. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, if you made it to the end, leave a ghost in the comments in honor of my favorite books of the month. And thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.